It's showtime. What's up, good people? And welcome to the Frank Harris Show, the biggest, the baddest, and the best show on earth. And by popular demand, we have Grandpa Smooth and Dominican E back in the building. Grandpa Smooth, what's good? Dominican E, what's the word, baby?
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, fellas? Grandpa Smooth, you my guy.
Yo, E, my West Side Harlem brother, we thankful to the Most High. And Harlem, we in the house. Thank you for inviting me back.
All right, guys, let's get into it. New legislation. It used to be where NIL deals, name, image, and likeness deals could not come directly from the universities. The universities created these collectives, right? Companies that were university alumni or friends that would put money aside and put deals aside and give potential athletes and athletes of the school deals, NIL deals, name, image, and likeness deals. Now it has been legislated that schools can directly pay players. So no longer do schools have to circumvent or get other people to do it. They can pay directly, which means Alabama's football program can pay a player directly to come play football at Alabama, which means Duke's basketball program can pay players directly to come play for Duke. Grandpa Smooth, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think it's long overdue, but I would like to know what the contracts look like because I'm concerned about the 14th player. Is he going to be able to get paid like the number one player? So I just would like to find out exactly because I was concerned about did these players become employees?
They're not employees, no.
So if they're not employees, then how are they getting paid?
Universities can give you checks. If I'm giving you $2 million to come to play football at Alabama this year, I can give you $2 million. And I cannot pay the guy that gets no playing time. So ultimately, the universities can decide to disseminate the money as they please.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So no salary structure in place. So once again, then they almost back, those guys are back to the slave mentality where you don't get paid. We're going to pay these people, but you don't get paid.
Well, I'm not sure that slave mentality, but anyway, E, what's your opinion about that? Slave mentality, slaves don't get paid anything, but okay, E. What you say, E?
I think it's well overdue. You know what I mean? It's gonna have a major impact in college sports. You know what I'm saying? It's well overdue, but it's gonna have a major impact in college sports because now schools who can't afford to pay players, you're gonna see those universities either dismantle their programs because they can't keep up with the who's. The Alabamas of the world that are paying $2-3 million a player. So I think it's gonna impact college athletics.
Just to be clear, let's not exaggerate. Nobody's paying $2 to $3 million per player. No time soon. Some rosters have 90 players on the roster. Let's be clear. No one's paying $2 to $3 million per player. Now, if you say for top players, different conversation. But no one's paying that. But anyway, let me let you finish.
That's just football, but what about basketball?
You probably don't pay $2 to $3 million per player on your basketball team either. You think you're gonna pay the first guy $2 to $3 million and pay the guy that gets no playing time $2 to $3 million? I mean, that don't make no sense.
I think it's gonna be a dip in who gets what.
Well, listen, let me say this. Those are all fair points, right? And I do think it's going to adversely impact basketball. And by the way, I never was in favor of NIL deals, right? That's a whole nother conversation. I just hate what college sports have become personally, but everybody else has their opinion. I respect it, etc. But let me say this. At some point, you're going to have to implement a salary cap because at the end of the day, without a salary cap, right, it's no longer going to be any parity in sports. Because like you just said, E, if Alabama is obviously a university flush with cash because the football players making the university so much money, there's no way a smaller program is going to be able to compete, right? It's no way a smaller program is going to be able to get big time players. It used to be a time where, the top programs were going to get the majority of the big time program players anyway, but there used to be a time where a schoolboy would stay home, right? So everybody wouldn't go to Kansas on the basketball side, Duke, Kentucky, whatever. You used to be able to get a kid that, if he was a good player in state at South Carolina or something like that, South Carolina could potentially get the best player in the state of South Carolina. But with these NIL deals and with the amount of money that's being given out, it's going to be hard to keep really good players, playing at mid to low Division I programs, right? And not just mid to low, but still even teams that are at the bottom of the top conferences, right? Teams at the bottom of the ACC, teams at the bottom of the SEC, et cetera. So it's going to create, to me, less parity and more dominance by the top programs because they got the top money to pay the top players. Now, so ultimately, I think there needs to be further legislation that creates a salary cap and says, look, okay, you can pay directly, but there is a $15 million salary cap that every program has to abide by, because that's the only way to keep some level of parity, like they do in professional basketball. They try to create salary caps, and in some sports they have hard caps, like in football. They try to create these caps so they can have some level of competition. All right. But I just think that, NIL, name, image, and likeness deals, the direction that college sports is going into, is going to be crazy. I mean, you might as well consider it professional sports, right? College sports no longer exist.
So, Frank, let me ask you this. So, this
they
goes
used to
across
pay
the board.
the top players anyway, secretly. So now they just could do it in the open. I think it still was, no parity, because they still was getting and gonna always get the best players. So because of money.
There was parity. I mean, you look at college basketball. I mean, you look at Duke or Kentucky and those programs, the programs that we call the better programs, they didn't win every year. There's a lot of different teams that was winning NCAA tournaments.
The top 30 teams, most 90% of the time, is the same teams every year. Same teams.
Well,
so it wasn't no parity if it's the same teams. Out of all of those college teams, these same teams always got the best players. And as most of us know, those players was paid under the table.
Well, let me say this. I do agree that there's never going to be complete parity, okay? But in the systems that we previously had, you did see other teams be able to rise up and have success. Even within the ecosystem where I agree, the majority of the better players did go to the better schools. I'm not disagreeing with that, okay? But you still were able to get a lot of really good players going to lesser schools that would go to, again, I gave you an example. The best player at South Carolina, in the state of South Carolina, would sometimes go to South Carolina. The best player in the state of Missouri would go to Missouri, right, from time to time. Ultimately, that's not going to happen because the best player in this state is getting $4 million to go play over here. And if this school can't match that in terms of, and the issue is the alumni base, the base of operations, the people, et cetera, they don't have the money that Alabama may have, or that, the University of Kansas may have in basketball, Alabama in football, to be able to compete. So if you don't create a salary cap, Alabama could pay $30 million. Alabama can have $100 million payroll. I'm being hypothetical, right? And the University of Cincinnati can have a $4 million payroll. There's a very minimal chance that the University of Cincinnati is going to be able to compete with Alabama in that dynamic.
I just think it's going to take a big. I think it's going to take like a big. I just don't see the parity in football and basketball, because now, right, you have, like, for example, the HBCUs. They're no longer going to exist when it comes to football, right? They had a hard time, staying afloat. Now, they're not going to get players at the HBCU level because everybody's chasing the money.
Sure, I hate to say it, but HBCUs don't exist right now. Are you awake? I know you like HBCUs, and I know you love Deion Sanders, but in terms of, HBCUs don't exist as it currently stands. So if you go to that pool, they already don't exist. They already function in the world of their own.
Yes,
but I'm saying that ain't gonna change.
What about the lower level schools as well? Those schools are
at some point, it's going to create two dynamics, right? It's going to be the high major programs. They're going to break away at some point and create their own league.
Yes.
Right? The NCAA, it's going to be one or two power conferences, right? They're going to get a crazy TV deal, Eric, and then everybody else are going to be the others, right? So the Alabamas, the Georgias, all of the top programs at the very, very top, they're going to have probably either one super conference or two super conferences, right? And all those teams with all the money, right, are going to get all the TV revenue, all the game revenue, and that's what it's going to be at some point. And everybody else is going to have to create their own leagues and be the others, because at some point it's going to be no level of competition. You can't compete with somebody with significantly more money.
So the HBCUs going to have to form their own league.
Well, I mean, you keep talking about the HBCUs. When's the last time FAMU won a championship, bro? When the last time FAMU was in the Orange Bowl? I mean, when the last time Jackson State, even with Dion, was in the Rose Bowl? Well, they can't go in the Rose Bowl. But the point I'm making, obviously, is those teams are not playing at that level of, at any level of real competitive level anyway, right? Okay. But the question is, how do you, when you talk about the Cincinnatis of the world, right? The programs that are still good level programs, but the Kansas football of the world, right? The Kansas States of the world. Teams, again, that are really good football programs still, but are not going to be able to compete. The Mississippi States of the world, right? You won't see those two schools rising up because they can no longer compete with the big dogs. Go ahead, Grandpa Smooth.
I agree with that 100%. But I think...
Oh, my God. Hold on, E. Grandpa Smooth said he agreed with me 100%. Look where my calendar at. E. Oh, go ahead, Grandpa Smooth.
Resiliency is about these last couple of years, these guys opened up the portal where players could move. Now, it was good because mid-level schools got better, was able to challenge Duke, and you look who was in the the Big 68, unheard of schools. Look at St. Peter's, come out of nowhere, but St. Peter's got players from the portal. St. Peter's got those transfers in. So eventually, and I got one question to ask you, son. Suppose you take the $2 million. Do you have to stay at that school once you got paid the $2 million? Are you able to leave, or you are under a contract where you can't leave?
Grandpa Smooth, good question.
I do believe that players have to give money back if they. I don't think that a school pays you. I don't think you get a year-to-year deal. I think if a team pays you a certain amount of money, right, they can hold you to being able to having to stay for some period of time. I believe that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but I don't think a school is going to pay you a $4 million deal to come to a school and you can transfer after a year is done. I mean, and again, I don't know that answer specifically, so we can figure that out. But I can imagine the school saying, "Here's $5 million in NIL deal, and you leave after a year."
When the plus I got to.
What's your question? You said you have a question.
Those players would have to give back that money.
Right, might have to give it back. You can give it back in transfer.
Mm-hmm. To give back that money.
Right.
So.
But maybe you don't have to give it back, right? So maybe these deals are 1-year deals, right? When guys are coming to a school, because you do have guys that are going to schools and transferring. Some guys are hopping from school to school every year, right? And so I wonder if you can structure it where you say, hey, if I'm giving you $10 million or $5 million or $6 million, you can stay longer, but you can take this $2 million deal for a year, right? And then if you decide to leave, that's your choice.
Right. But that's the marketplace. The marketplace is going to determine itself.
Yeah, so, the marketplace will dictate.
But I just worry about, once again, those players that's under these people. I mean, not as talented as these people. And I know you said eventually they're going to have to put in.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They may not have to. But by the way,
they're going to have to put something in.
But by the way, I hate to say this, right? But like in the free enterprise market, you said the market speaks for itself, right?
Right.
If a scrub ain't getting no money, work on your game. I mean, I hate to say it, right? But the market speaks, right? If I'm the man on the basketball team and my name, image, and likeness is worth $4 million, and your name, image, and likeness is worth $4,000, that's on you, bro. Go work on your game.
I don't have a beef if you get his $4,000. I mean, whatever the salary,
or maybe zero, or maybe you're worth. Maybe
no, they can't get zero. You're gonna be on that team and only get zero
because the market says that nobody ain't willing to pay you to play.
Frank, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You talk about a salary cap where universities are gonna have to structure like a salary cap, right? What about an athlete that runs track? He's the number one athlete. He's the number one sprinter in the country. Now he goes to Alabama. So that money is also going to be allocated to the track runner, the volleyball player, the baseball player. They got the hockey team. So how does that going to work? Because as we know, football is more scholarships in football than any other sport on a college campus. So how is that going to be structured to where?
I don't understand how it should be. It doesn't. This is not a Title IX issue where like females and males have to get the same money. I mean, I don't think it's a Title IX issue. The market speaks, right? So if the quarterback on the football team is worth X amount of dollars, right? The man on the volleyball team is not, right? So the market will speak, right? I don't think that there's going to be an allocation where everybody has to be allocated their right proportion or everybody gets the same.
I don't think that's the
I mean, that wouldn't make sense.
No,
The
no,
quarterback, the quarterback for the football team is making more than the guy playing hockey.
no, but
right?
you talked about a salary cap as far as like let's say $15 million. So now that money has to be allocated to this player, this player, this player, this player, and football players they get the most. So I understand.
Yes.
So it's going to be.
So you got to create a scale, Eric, based upon what do sports normally bring.
That's what I'm asking.
You got to scale it based upon what do sports bring to universities.
So the track star, he might get less than let's say a hockey player.
Well, he may not get less because he may get the majority of a smaller number.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So
right. So guys, we're gonna move topics, but in general, Eric, you like the NIL, and do you like the fact that universities are paying directly now, or did you prefer the old model where universities were not paying directly?
No, I like this model. I like this model better because now it's coming.
Where universities can pay. Yes. Okay, Grandpa Smooth. You like where universities
were?
Too many hands. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There was too many hands in the pot where it was you had all these companies and stuff like that. Now it was just directly the universities paying. Before.
Okay, fair enough. Grandpa Smooth.
Well, once again, I just would like some equity in the pay. So me, I'm a union guy. That's why I know unions gave us a better life. And so I don't want those guys who may be the 7th or the 8th or the 9th man, what they supposed to get. So I'm for some type of salary cap or a distribution system that is fair. It's not
don't say fair. A distribution system is the guy, the 12th man on the bench. He might be worth $500 to the star.
So like you said,
so long as he makes $1, you happy?
I'm happy. Now go ahead on out, like on any job.
Right.
Work on your skills and move up the ladder.
So if we give you $1, E, to be the 12th man on the bench, E, take $1.50, go get a pizza.
But I like what you always told me. No, Daddy, they gave us, you get sneaker allocations, you get certain amounts of money when you're on the basketball team. So, right. But they changing that game. So please continue to get those people. And because I used to argue with you about, they telling me that a guy got to turn in a pair of sneakers just to get another pair of sneakers.
Right.
So the guy ain't getting no money because they had guys selling their sneakers.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a whole different model, right? I don't agree with that, right? So the bottom is, I'm not for NILs, as you know, Eric, and Grandpa Smooth. I think that college sports should be college sports, and I don't believe in NILs. I think it's changed sports for the worse, personally. I think it's really, really the end of great collegiate sports as we knew it. And so I think it's all garbage. And next step, you see the Dartmouth players are pushing for unionizing, right? Which you better be careful with but you better be careful what you wish for, because Northwestern tried it a few years, right? It got struck down. Now Dartmouth is trying it, but be careful what you're wishing for, because with that comes people being able to lose their scholarships, right? People being able to get fired, people being able
that happened to them now.
That doesn't happen now. If you have a college scholarship to a university, you will not get fired. You can't get fired in the middle of the year, right? So with those responsibilities, when you unionize, there are rules and regulations that both sides have to abide by. That's another slippery slope, in my opinion, to talk about. But just understand, right? When you start doing minimum wage, and that's something that comes when you unionize, work labor hours, right? You get to dictate those types of things. But like I said, people can pull your scholarship at any point too when you're unionized too, right? Those are other issues. So there are a lot of elements that come along with unionizing that I think will add a whole nother layer of craziness in the college sports. We'll talk about that later. Fellas,
Day,
another good conversation. I appreciate it. All right. Until next time, Grandpa Smooth and Dominican E. Oh, E, last time we forgot E on the show. It was so hot topic wise. We didn't let you shout out your Dominican brother who you want to shout out, sister, who's doing great things in the society right now.
I'm gonna go just because NBA season just ended, and you pointed it out in the beginning of the episode. I'm gonna go with old man Al. You know, winning the NBA title. Man, that say 17 years, oldest current player. With, as far as playoff appearance. So I'm happy for him and his family, great family, and that O'Meal, Al Horford, NBA champion, baby.
Great player, NBA champion.
That's right.
Al Horford. All right, fellas. Well, listen, it's been real, obviously. We'll do it again soon. To everybody out there, like, subscribe. Let me know what you feel about NILs. Do you feel it's good or bad? The fact that colleges can pay directly now? Give me your thoughts. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the comments. Please subscribe. Love. We out.